The 60s was a time of turmoil across North America. Society's values were being challenged. Materialism was out, idealism was in, and racism was not about to disappear. Rubin "Hurricane" Carter was a victim of that racism, a young black American boxer who ended up framed for murder. Hurricane might have spent his entire life in prison, except for an idealistic band of Canadians who decided to drop everything to take up Carter's cause. It changed their lives, the future of a young ghetto boy, and most of all, it turned around the life of Rubin "Hurricane" Carter.
Griffith wobbles as he gets to his knees to listen to the count.
In the boxing ring, he was ferocious.
Carter moves in to finish it.
He was also an outspoken champion in the fight for civil rights during the 60s. Rubin "Hurricane" Carter was a contender. In 1963 at Madison Square Gardens, he knocked out Emil Griffiths in one round. Carter was going to be the next middleweight boxing champion of the world.
Carter throwing leather from every direction sends Griffith down again.
He would never get his shot at that title. The best thing about Carter's childhood in Peterson, New Jersey, was that he survived it. A decaying industrial town where being a poor black kid meant learning about bigotry, crime, and violence. Rubin Carter's career died on June 17, 1966. A gruesome crime took place at a rundown bar in Peterson. It became the subject of a Bob Dylan song called "Hurricane."
Here comes the story of the hurricane.
4 months after the murders, a thief, Alfred Bello, himself a suspect, placed Rubin Carter and a kid named John Artis at the scene of the crime. So with no apparent motive and on flimsy evidence, Carter and Artis were arrested for the murders at the Lafayette Grill. They were sentenced to 3 life terms. Then suddenly, 7 years later, Alfred Bello, the man who originally incriminated Carter, goes public. He says he lied at the trial, that police pressured him to finger Carter. The case became the focus of a national campaign. Bob Dylan wrote his song "Hurricane" and held a benefit concert. The famous and not so famous found a cause in Carter. Rock stars, athletes, and actresses demonstrated, protesting the injustice done to him. Carter had already served 10 years when the New Jersey Supreme Court ordered a second trial. The prosecution tried to prove the murders were racially motivated. The judge bought it and sent Artis and Carter back to the penitentiary. You spent 20 years in jail for murders you did not commit. How did you deal with that?
I knew that I was innocent. I knew that I was not in prison for murder. I knew that. So my every day in prison was one of fighting against the entire prison system. That is I wouldn't eat its food. I wouldn't wear its clothing. I wouldn't even acknowledge the guards or the warden or anyone. I wouldn't talk to a guard, see? Therefore, the vast majority of my time was spent in solitary confinement.
We picked the story up in 1979 here in Bushwick, a tough section of Brooklyn in New York City. By now, Rubin Carter has been locked up for 13 years, telling court after court he is not a murderer. At the same time, here in Bushwick, a 15-year-old boy, Lesra Martin, is growing up in the midst of poverty and violence. By chance, sheer coincidence, he meets a group of Canadians from Toronto who will change the course of his life forever. And together, they will change the life of Rubin "Hurricane" Carter. That boy, Lesra Martin, is a man today. This is the first time in over 10 years he's back to Linden Street in Brooklyn and the house where he grew up. This is a place where a kid gets mugged for his milk money.
This is the one that we used to live in back in 1979.
It doesn't look very good.
No, it doesn't at all.
What does it mean growing up on a street like this?
My father, he wasn't working. We were on welfare, and that was inadequate. So I pretty much worked all day to make sure we ate that night.
How is it coming back here now?
Frightening. I'm 27 years old now, and I might still be here. No, that to me, that's sad. It's frightening, very frightening.
A world away from that ghetto, in a small town north of Toronto, is the reason Lesra Martin got out of Brooklyn. a group of Canadians who have lived and worked together for 20 years. They consider themselves a family. They share everything,
That's it.
including a desire to make the world a little better. They started living together in the early 70s. This may have been an idealistic commune, but it was a rich one, with a big house in Toronto, the money coming from their successful Yorkville batik business. In 1979, 2 members of that group went to New York on a business trip. At a warehouse in Brooklyn, they happened to meet Lesra Martin, who was working there for the summer. Lesra grew close to these Canadians, especially Terry Swinton and Sam Chayton.
It was difficult to communicate at first using words because his language was really a different language from the language that we spoke. His vocabulary was very limited. He spoke black English, and it was a street English.
No expectations of himself, no expectations of anybody he knew, his family, friends, no hopes, no dreams. That was a direct reflection of the environment that he grew up in.
The Canadians invited Lesra up to Toronto for a visit. When he got back to New York, all he could think about were his new Canadian friends.
Actually, when I first came, I called him all the time, every single day. In fact, I'm sure that phone right there has my fingerprint on it, engraved in the receiver. Because
every day?
every single day.
And every day, Lesra would go to school. He was in grade 11 and thought he was doing well, but he was only reading at a grade 2 level. So he was 15 going into grade 11 and he was illiterate?
Basically, yes, that's right. But he was incredibly bright. He was unbelievably curious. He would constantly be asking questions about this or that.
The Canadians wanted to help Lesra, and his parents wanted him to get a better education too. So he moved to Toronto and the Canadians began to tutor him. While Lesra was rebuilding his life, Rubin Carter was doing life in Trenton State Prison. And now, coming back here after all these years is not easy for Carter. He was a different person behind those walls. He remembers that as an innocent man, the only way he could survive was to play the role of a hardened prize fighter. You were a mean guy. You were pushing everybody away. You were pushing everybody out of your life.
That's not being mean. That's having the survival instinct, the instinct to survive.
But that's how everybody read it. That's what everybody saw.
I don't care what people saw. The thing that they didn't see and they couldn't have seen was trying to survive this brick and mortar and steel and hatred and anger and hostility and humiliation. People did not see that.
Carter tried to tell people about that in his book, The 16th Round. Like a letter in a bottle, he sent it out beyond the prison walls, hoping someone would pick it up. In Canada, Lesra Martin came across the book and received the message. When you came across Rubin Carter's book, what did it say to you?
I was at that time battling a bad image of myself, battling an image that I was stupid, that I couldn't be educated, that I couldn't possibly succeed. And for him to succeed under those circumstances in which he did and to never be broken despite so many years in prison made me realize, well, I can certainly do this.
Lesra wanted to write him a letter and just basically to say, I read your book. There's people out here thinking about you. Hang in there kind of thing. And so Lesra wrote him a letter.
And Rubin responded, which was amazing. It amazed all of us.
Lesra and his Canadian family began to reach inside the walls of Trenton State Prison. They began to correspond with Carter on a regular basis. In December 1980, Lesra decided to go down there himself. He was Carter's first visitor in 5 years.
His warmth arrived. His brilliance arrived. His intelligence arrived. His understanding arrived and pierced these walls and pierced the coldness of my heart.
He was petrified. You saw that, huh?
He was beautiful.
But he was frightened.
Oh, who would not be frightened in the face of all this? If you're not frightened in the face of this, you are crazy.
Carter was ready to come out of his shell. He changed his appearance, let his hair grow, shaved his beard. Lesra and the Canadians began to visit Carter once a month.
They had the wherewithal to say to this guy behind these bars, man, we're coming in.
Weren't you at all suspicious? Didn't you think, who are these nice white liberal Canadians who want to make me their project?
After I understood the history of Lesra and their relationship and what they were able to do for Lesra, I loved them. I loved them because they opened the door of access to a little black kid.
The Canadians showered Carter with gifts, food packages, a robe they designed and made themselves. This growing friendship was expressed in Carter's letters.
My dear, beautiful friends, how can I ever thank you for what you have given me? For the first time in close to 44 years, I can truly say that I trust somebody. I trust you, and without reservations, without doubt, and without trying to condition it in any way. And for me, that is indeed a miracle. Bless you for it. I'll be talking to you soon. With all my love, Rube. Yeah, I remember that very well.
Carter kept returning to the Passaic County Courthouse in Peterson, New Jersey for an endless stream of hearings and appeals. His case was now 15 years old and he was going nowhere.
Myron, how are you? Nice to see you.
Carter had some high-powered legal help. Myron Beldock is a well-known New York criminal lawyer, and Leon Friedman is a leading constitutional law expert. They both put in thousands of hours free of charge. This case went up the state ladder so many times. What is it about the justice system in New Jersey that it took so long?
Where passions are high in the community and there's a polarization of people on one side or the other, it becomes us and them. And once it becomes that, and the prosecution has said, this is the course we're going to follow, when error comes to their attention, they don't think of it as error.
It goes up the system. The policemen think they've got the arrest, and the prosecutors come in and they prosecute the case, and then you have a trial judge who finds them guilty, and all of them reinforce each other. See, all of them feel as if their work is at stake, and they all have to defend what they've done in the past.
That attitude led to a paper chase a mile long, which the Canadians were willing to wade through. They assisted the lawyers by studying Rubin's notes and documents, and they began their own detailed investigation of the events on the night of the murders.
For example, we got a map of Peterson from the library, and then we would get the transcripts of police testimony, and we would trace all their routes in different colors on a map, try to find out where they were and where Rubin was at that time and what he was doing.
They kind of won me over. It took a while for me to be willing to accept the fact that these non-lawyers would really be a central part of the legal team.
They make you this emotional?
Yeah, I love them.
Lesra Martin loved them too. While they were working to free Carter, the Canadians were still his full-time tutors.
In basically a 2-year period, I went from being completely illiterate, functionally illiterate, to, preparing for university. That's the incredible part, I think. It just goes to show you that, I wasn't stupid.
By 1982, Lesra was well on his way to university, and Sam and Terry were on their way to New Jersey. Supported by the rest of the group in Toronto, they decided to move closer to Carter and work harder to free him. Sam and Terry rented an apartment in the town of Rahway, New Jersey. From the balcony, they could see the dome of Rahway Prison, where Carter had recently been moved. This was a medium security institution, so now they could either visit or spend hours talking on the phone.
It made a big difference that someone cared about you enough to move from the north down here and then acquire a place that's so close to this place where you could look out of the window and see their building. It's incredible. I still feel the same vibrations, the same viciousness, the same humiliation, the same degradation now, and even now tears are coming out of my eyes from my being here. This place is bad. I want to go. And this laugh is not a laugh, it's a cry.
Then let's go. In 1984, Carter made an important decision. After 18 years, he gave up the battle in the New Jersey state courts. He decided to appeal directly to a U.S. federal judge on constitutional grounds. It would be his last legal chance for freedom. After 8 months of preparation, the case finally moved to federal district court in Newark. Rubin Carter's big break came on November 7th, 1985, in this courtroom. Federal Judge Lee Sarakin heard the case, and he did not mince words. He said, to permit convictions to stand which have as their foundation appeals to racial prejudice and the withholding of evidence critical to the defense is to commit a violation of the Constitution as heinous as the crimes for which these defendants were tried and convicted. So after 19 years in jail, Rubin Hurricane Carter was officially innocent.
What I felt at that moment was, anything in this world can be done if you got commitment and you got the people to do it and are able to focus upon it.
Was there any kind of a letdown when you were finally freed by that federal court?
As you know, I lost my eye while I was in prison. Well, this day I lost sight in both eyes. And my hair was falling out in clumps. In big chunks, my hair was falling out. So the letdown came physically rather than psychologically or emotionally.
Passaic County prosecutors were contemptuous of the federal decision. They characterized it as one man's opinion, and they appealed, all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court. Finally, in February 1988, the U.S. Supreme Court declined to hear the case, and Passaic County, New Jersey, gave up its obsessive pursuit of Rubin Carter. Around the time Carter's case was winding down, Lesra Martin was graduating from the University of Toronto with an honors degree. Do you ever play a what-if game? What if I didn't leave Bushwick? What if I didn't move to Toronto, meet these Canadians?
Had I not been given the opportunity to go to Toronto and be properly educated, the options for someone like me, poor black in a ghetto, you're either going to be strung out on drugs in prison or dead. So that was very, very frightening, to think that that may in fact have been my future.
Today, Lesra Martin has a future. He is married, living in Halifax, working full-time, and completing a master's degree in sociology at Dalhousie University. Next year, he hopes to go to law school. The story of Lesra Martin, Rubin Hurricane Carter, and the Canadians was stranger than fiction.
Hello. Hi. I would like to see Iris Skew, please. Look.
You couldn't make this stuff up, so they decided to write it down.
Hi, Iris.
Hi.
Iris, how are you doing?
Fine.
Maybe there's a movie in this, too. Carter is now living with the Canadians, and they sure could use the money. Carter got nothing for his time in prison. No compensation, no apology.
I know, isn't it beautiful? It's not coded, but it's the real thing.
I was 29 years old when they arrested me. And I was 49 when they released me.
Ready to face life. With what?
With nothing. With nothing except a lot of friends and a lot of good cheer and a lot of goodness around me, a lot of sweetness around me. That's what.
Is there still a hurricane in Rubin Hurricane Carter?
There's always been a hurricane in Rubin Carter. That's Rubin Carter, the hurricane. And hurricane is beautiful.